So making lifestyle practical, here we go with this mindset of we're creating a whole new structure to support a new need. Okay, the new need is personalized medicine for chronic disease. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn from business leaders. The first one's name is Wilfredo Pareto. So he's an Italian sociologist and economist back in the 1800s, and he noticed this principle or truth that seemed to keep coming up to the surface. And it's called Pareto's Principle. So what Pareto said is that 20% of your work yields 80% of your outcomes. So here's a common example, some common examples. 20% of the services you offer likely create 80% of your practice revenue. 20% of your patients cause 80% of your problems. 20% of your supplement line yields 80% of your supplement revenue. So I would contend that what we need to put in that 20% is lifestyle and core nutraceutical therapy. That takes care of 80% of my patients' problems. If I can flip lifestyle signals and replace some key nutrients based on their timeline. You know, if I see that they had a horrible gut, I'm gonna go in with my core gut stuff. If I see that they're really toxic, I might go in with some core liver support and make sure they're good poopers. You know what I mean? Do you notice that? Like, you probably have your wheelhouse of things that you're like, this is my go-to, this is my go-to this, my go-to that. I want you to know that you probably, 20% of what you do is probably yielding 80% of all the good stuff that you put out in your practice. Now, what does that mean? That means that you spend 80% of your time doing other stuff that only gives you 20% more. So, we many times, through intellectual masturbation, spend time figuring out the 80% versus trying to nail and scale the 20%. This is what I would ask you to pause and reflect on. What do you do most of your day? Before I started understanding these principles, spent a lot of time on appointments. And what do I do on appointments? I mean, I did my timeline, I did my matrix, I then started thinking my therapies, and then I said, you know, oh, this person needs better lifestyle. Oh, but I need to order this test, and this test is through this insurance company. And then I had to do data review of the testing that I had ordered, and then I had to, if I consulted someone, I had to look at the consult report. So the question we all have is, how do we get 80% of the results by only investing 20% of your time? Right? So this is where the next gentleman, his name is C. Northcote Parkinson, he's going to teach us a principle. His principle is called the Parkinsons Principle of productivity. And what he says is work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. So how about we shrink the time we use for this stuff that only gives us 20% yield, right? How do you start shrinking that? Well, you've got to start looking at the things that you do that you really don't need to be doing. There are some things you should be doing now. There's some things you can do later. There's many things you should be delegating. This is a graph that you can look at, and it's pretty self-explanatory, but it teaches you how to bucket things in order to know what you should be doing now, later, or never. So you're nailing it and scaling it, right? You want to try to use a minimum viable product. So what that means is, like, when I started my practice, and actually the website that I have up is through Wix.com. It's a build your own website. I could have spent thousands and thousands of dollars to have someone build my website. But you know what? My website is not what sells me for what I notice in my market. It's word of mouth. When people have word of mouth, they go to the website, and so long as I look semi-credible and the page looks pretty, they call. Do you know what I'm saying? That works for my population. So I had the minimum viable product for the website. In my office, I have a minimum viable type of situation. I used to have a 4,000 square foot facility, but now that I do more telemedicine and we have virtual coaching, that I was able to downsize into a smaller space. Minimum viable product. Was it nice to have tons of space? If it works and it's part of what you need for your brand, yes. But if it's not, use your minimum viable product. Like, you gotta avoid loss, rent or your mortgage is a big loss if it's a big number, right? Payroll. You've got to have a minimum viable product. Low burn by design, no scaling until revenue. Don't scale it before you're sure it works and before you're making money on it, okay? So agile development. So here's my story. So I started doing group medical appointments out of need. I nailed it and scaled it. I saved time and money. And then my husband had the brilliant idea of videotaping me doing group visits, and he put them online so that people could be assigned homework. So if they didn't come, I can't teach you in an 18-minute insurance visit, so you have to watch your homework before you see me. So decision fatigue, because they came in already knowing so much about the gut or bones or thyroid that I didn't have to go through. The thyroid is a gland in your neck. Decision fatigue, time fatigue with technology. Then I added on a health coach, saved time, made money, and it helped with decision fatigue. I don't have to answer the questions that the coach can answer. Now with the extra time, when I whittled down my dark blue circle, if you will, I love to teach. It's one of my things, and I love having the extra time to do it. I love creation, I love art, so I like to create things in the business world, but I also am taking on an interest in fine arts because I want to be a balanced person myself. What I do is I have a membership practice, and people pay a monthly fee for services that are not covered through insurance. And so that's what we call residual revenue. People pay whether they come in or not. So I always have 80% of my revenue coming from membership. Whether they come or not, I have money coming in, which is different from a cash-based practice. And now I don't want any more members because I take care of them primary care style. So now if I want more patients, I do consults, fee for service on top of my members. So if I feel like, oh, I'd like to travel to Africa, I think I'll take a few more consult patients or whatever in my mind I've worked out.